Hi, today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. It's Mental Health Week or Mental Health Awareness Week, and I think in America they have a whole month actually, Mental Health Awareness Month or something like that. In the UK we have a week. I'm not sure why we only have a week, but anyway. And for a long time I was thinking about doing a video talking about certain issues and stuff like that, because I kind of talked a little bit about it in my healthy hair journey video. I think I talked a little bit about some issues and stuff like that I was going through, and seeing as it's Mental Health Awareness Week, I thought why not do it then, because I guess it's not something that we always want to talk about, it's not something that we all want to share, but I do know, like, sometimes I've given testimonies or I've spoken a little bit about certain issues and people have come after and said, you know, that they really needed to hear that, or they've been going through certain things, and me just saying it, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes when you're going through issues or you have certain things that are bothering you, sometimes you just hide behind a wall or something. I'm not saying you should blab your business out to everybody or you should talk about everything to everyone. No, I mean, like, even from the people who are close to you, that you kind of, like, you don't really want to say anything, you don't want to come across like there's anything wrong, you want to act like everything's okay. And sometimes when you go through certain issues, you don't really realize exactly how you feel until something else happens, and you can kind of understand that you weren't in a good place. Actually, as I'm sitting here, I do feel a bit awkward, but hey, so that big rambling. Today I'm going to be talking about depression. I'm going to be talking about how I cope and things that has helped me, things that I've noticed, and stuff like that. And just, I guess I'll start talking. Not that I haven't already chatted along, but I'll just start talking and see where it goes. Okay, basically, the type of depression that I have, or the type of depression that I was diagnosed with, was postnatal depression. Postnatal depression is depression you get after you have a child, and it can affect you straight away, or it can affect you up to, I think, 3 years, maybe 5 years. Sometimes it happens straight away and sometimes it doesn't happen at all until like 3 years maybe, and you're wondering what's going on. I was diagnosed with my first child. I didn't understand what was going on. I was quite young at the time, so I guess it was put down to that I was quite young and finding the changes hard and I couldn't cope, etc. And I was given some medication. I didn't really want to take the medication. I didn't feel right in myself. It was the midwife that kind of, she pointed out that, you know, she thought that I had postnatal depression. I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed. My next child I had about 4 or 5 years later, and again I had the feelings again, but although I kind of recognized them, I didn't really realize until, again, one of the midwives, just when she came to see me, she just, you know, said, I think you might be a little bit depressed. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. One of my friends, close friends, said to me, I think you're a little bit depressed. And I was like, no. We had a big argument, and in the middle of the argument she just said, oh, I think you're a bit depressed. So obviously I'm already all like in my shouty mood, and I'm like, no, I'm not depressed, and, you know, thinking, how dare you say that kind of thing. But after a while I started to think, actually, I'm not in the right place. Oh, it's a little bit, sorry, I felt a little bit weird then, just thinking about it, just thinking back to them days. My son, my eldest son, actually, he realised that something was wrong with me. And when I think back to how I was then, I really wasn't in a good place. I would get on with everything else, like get on with day-to-day stuff. Well, I thought I was getting on to day-to-day stuff, and really I wasn't. I had my next child, I had quite close. I was actually nursing or breastfeeding, the awkward breastfeeding word, but yeah, I was actually breastfeeding while I was pregnant, and I had preeclampsia with my second son. So I'm not sure whether I just had a hard time and that's why the postnatal depression came back. I don't know, but when I had my third child, the hospital actually refused to discharge me because they were worried that I was depressed. I had illness during the pregnancy, so I was already, you know, they were already keeping an eye on me basically, and they didn't want to discharge me because of the postnatal depression I had before. So anyway, moving on and on and on. Basically, the 3 middle children I had in very close. I have to really stop saying I notice I say so much, but anyway, the 3 middle children I had relatively close together, so I think my body and my mind didn't get a chance to kind of catch up and recuperate, and you know, as you know, so I was in a very, very bad place, to be honest. I didn't like, it's kind of weird because obviously you realize that you'll feel down, but I didn't have any up days, so it soon became normal. It became normal to feel down. It became normal to start having these really negative feelings. It became normal feeling like I don't want to be here. I remember one time my husband, he left the house to bring, I think, my eldest son, to take him at somewhere, and you know, before he left, he just knew, oh, something's a bit, you know, something wasn't right. And I kind of was like, yeah, okay, I'll see you when you get back. And I remember as soon as he'd left, I just put the young one at the time, I put him in a pushchair, put on his blanket, put on, you know, all the rain, what do you call it, the plastic, and I just left the house with him. I just needed to get out, and I can't tell you where I was going, I can't tell you what I was thinking. I just wasn't thinking anything really. And the next thing I knew, my husband just came up behind me in the car. I don't know how he knew. I don't know. All I know is that he came up behind me and he was just saying, look, get in the car, please get in the car. And I was just saying, no, I don't want to. But he was really, really smart. He knew that if he took my youngest, like if he took my youngest, I would follow, obviously. So he said, please just come. So I came and we went home, and I was in the bathroom and I just sat there and I was just crying, and I just thought to myself, how did I get like this? That was one thing I remember. Another thing I remember looking back is I would feel not exactly afraid. I really didn't want to leave the house, and I wouldn't leave the house. I'd make up all kind of excuses. If there were social events, I wouldn't go. I put on a lot of weight during that time. Yeah, very much. And I didn't really care about myself. Obviously I didn't like the way I looked, but excuse me, I didn't like the way I looked in general. I didn't like me. I really didn't like me. I gained, like I said, I gained a lot of weight. I ate a lot of rubbish. I comfort eated. I started hoarding. The place, like, you know, where we lived was just packed up with stuff. I didn't have the motivation to do anything. I just did day-to-day things. Like some days I didn't even want to get out of my bed. I'm just going to be honest, because a lot of the things, you know, what am I trying to say? A lot of the reasons, that's it. A lot of the reasons why we don't talk is because we feel shame, we feel afraid to open up and talk, we feel like people won't understand us, we feel like people will judge, and we just stay silent. And it's the silence that can cause the most damage. When I was in my silence, that's when I felt my most hateful, negative, you know, I really didn't want to share, but yeah, suicidal feelings of just, it would be better if I wasn't here, you know. It was just awful, and it was definitely a wall of silence. And even if people did reach out to me, I didn't want to receive the help. I didn't want to receive the, you know, I just didn't want, I just wasn't in the right place. Anyway, moving on, I think around 2010 or 2011, I had a breakthrough because I went away. I was helping somebody who was touring and I had time on my own, you know, and I just felt at that time I was at my lowest, and we went away and we was actually at a convention, and a bishop, he just called me up to pray for me, and he started talking, you know, he just started talking about me and telling me things that I hadn't told anybody. Basically, the convention was in America and the man didn't know me from anywhere. I was going to say he didn't know me from Adam. He didn't know me from anywhere. So it's not like he could have heard something, anything. And certain things that he was saying, I didn't share with anybody. Point blank, no one. And he was just talking to me and he was just telling me, you know, telling me about me, telling me how I felt, and I was just like, wow. And I just broke down. And you know, from that day, while we was out there, from that day, I just felt just completely different. And I didn't understand why I was feeling different. I couldn't put it into words, but I just felt different. And I spoke to my husband on Skype, I think it was. And I was just talking and I was just telling him what happened. And I was telling him how I felt different. And I was like, I don't know how I feel different, but I just feel different. And he was saying, yes, because you feel happy. And it hit me that I hadn't felt happy for such a long time, that I didn't know that I wasn't happy. I think it's really strange to say. I just didn't feel happy for so long. And then this time I was feeling happy. I was smiling. And I had a whole change. Everything just changed. I used to always wear black. I mean, I'm wearing black now. But when I wear black now, it's like a choice. Before, I used to wear black like... I can't really put it into words or explain why. I just didn't feel happy with myself. And black, I mean, I've always liked black as a colour, but black would help me to hide. Especially when I was at my largest, I used to think, oh, black is slimming. Not knowing that it doesn't matter what colour you've got on. If you're big, you're going to look big. And if you're small, you're going to look small. It doesn't matter what colour you've got on. Obviously, if you put white on, then yeah, you're going to look maybe a little bit bigger, because, you know, white is just one of them colours that really emphasise, you know what I'm trying to say. But I used to wear black all the time, and, you know, black, there's nothing wrong with wearing black, but when you're depressed or when you're down and when you have things going on in you and you wear black, it just makes you feel a certain way. And I felt like I could hide. I felt like black was just like a cloak. You know, it's really hard for me to put into words, but I started feeling really different about myself, and it was from then that this journey into, you know, having a well mind, let's say, started. Fast forward a little bit more, I had my younger son I had my son who now is the youngest. And during that pregnancy, I was very sick. It was the sickest I've been. I had a severe illness. I can't remember what they called it. Something gravitas. I don't know. It's like my mind just tried to just erase that. I started to get really, really sick. I had malnutrition. Yeah, it was really strange because at that time I was still bigger than I am now. But just telling the doctors and everything else, telling them that I was sick and I literally couldn't eat things. As soon as I ate, too much information, I'm really sorry, but as soon as I ate, it would come up. I couldn't drink. I couldn't even handle water, just water. So my body became dehydrated. And just telling the, you know, the medical staff that my words are all jumbling. Just talking to the medical staff and telling them that I couldn't eat. Obviously, I'm a big woman, so they just assume when you say you can't eat that you're eating, but it's not a lot. But I started getting ketones in my system, like really high levels of ketones, and that's when they kind of started to take note. So they would give me the drips, They would give me bags of vitamins through the IV, stuff like that, and it was really horrible time. Got so bad that I would go into A&E when things happen, because obviously when your body is dehydrated and everything else, you start to get really ill. So I'd be just rushed to A&E, and it got so bad that they just told me, you know what, don't go to A&E, come straight to, they had a special ward, and normally it was for ladies who were further in their pregnancy, but they just said, no, when you need to come in, just come to that ward. So I started going there. Sometimes it was like every few days or what have you, to be getting drips and stuff like that, and they started giving me anti-sickness stuff that wouldn't work. Then they gave me 2 different types, it wouldn't work. It was a long it was really horrible thinking back. So obviously while that's going on, my mind, I was gonna say, started drifting back, but anyway, while that was going on, I didn't really feel well in my body, so that wasn't making me feel well in my mind as well. So anyway, I was feeling ill. The only thing that really gave me a little bit of ease is when they would give me an injection, and I don't like needles one bit. Oh my gosh. So having all the drips and the IVs and everything else, it was really, it really, I just do this. Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't like needles. So anyway, moving on, I started to get really ill with preeclampsia, and a couple of times I'd have to stay on the labour ward. I didn't really understand. I just thought that they were just worried. I thought that they were kind of keeping an eye out in case I got preeclampsia. I only realised I actually had it after I gave birth and everything else. I guess my mind wasn't really, I think it was shielding me, because if I did know, maybe I would have panicked more or got even more stressed. You know, the blood pressure was really high, and being a large lady, you know, people would assume, oh, your blood pressure is high anyway, but my blood pressure wasn't high before I was pregnant, and it wasn't high when I had all the appointments before I started to get the symptom for preeclampsia. So I had to stay at hospital quite a few times, for quite a few nights at a time. During that time, obviously, I had the younger children. They didn't really like me being in hospital, so I started to feel guilty that I'm at hospital and they're at home, and you know, just I wanted to be with my family basically. Anyway, forward, because I do go on, don't I? But forwarding on, I had the baby, everything, thank God, worked out well. I had preeclampsia still afterwards, after I'd given birth. It lasted quite a long time this time around, to be honest. Yeah, it was quite scary, but I started to get down again. And the thing is about when you are depressed, or you have depression, saying that you're down is like saying that you're just getting a little bit wet when the rain is pouring down. It's like you're not down. It's not down, because when you feel down, like, I was going to say a normal person. It's not that I'm not normal, but a person who hasn't got depression, when they're down, they can bounce back. And I can't talk for every person with depression, obviously. I can only say my experience and how I feel. But when I feel like I'm depressed, I don't feel down. I know the difference between feeling down and then feeling depressed, because when you're, like I said, when you're down, you can bounce back. When you're down, it's something like you just have sometimes you have a off day. But being depressed is like, I just describe it like a cloud, like a black cloud. And like, moving on, I'm definitely going to be editing this because I've waffled and my mind's going all over the place. I feel for myself that now I don't feel depressed every day. I don't feel depressed every week. I don't feel depressed sometimes a month. Before, it was like I was just never getting out of it. It was just a cloud over me all the time. Now it's a case of I have periods of depression, and then periods when I'm fine, when everything, you know, feels really good. And now I don't know if it's knowledge or if it's, I don't know, but now I can see it coming. Now I can feel myself getting depressed, or feel myself getting the cloud coming, basically. I can feel it, whereas before I couldn't feel it until I was in it.